Our next speaker is Rudi Symons, who is the Worldwide Chief Talent Officer at Maxus, who will talk about how it is preparing its talent for the future. Please come on out, Rudi.
Hello, Gulltaggen. It's so lovely to be here. My name's Rudi, and I'm from London, from Maxus in London. This is actually my first ever time in Norway, would you believe? But it's really weird because I actually feel quite at home here. And people keep telling me I look Norwegian, which is really, really strange. But then I woke up this morning and suddenly thought, oh my God, there could be a reason for this, right? Because you guys, well, your ancestors, many, 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 many years ago, conquered the west coast of Scotland, and around about that time, I had some ancestors living there, so you never know. That could be why there's some connection going on. So I'm here to talk about the future of the media agency and what that's going to look like in 2020 and beyond, and to talk about change, really. At Maxus, we are all about leading change. That's our business proposition. We lead change for our clients. We partner with them, and we help them to build plans that are fit for the future. It's kind of as simple as that. Well, it's not really simple at all. But leading change is also absolutely central to our approach to people and culture. It has to be. And that's what my job is all about, basically. It's about challenging us to constantly evolve, to do things in new and better ways, to constantly create a culture that's a source of energy for our people, to keep them engaged, to give them that energy to deliver everything that we need them to deliver. So I guess, and James has just been talking brilliantly about this, that we find ourselves now in this pace of change where it's requiring us not only to react, but to actually fundamentally change the way we operate. It's huge, it's big, it's scary, a bit like George, the massive tortoise up here. He's actually in the Galapagos Islands, I found out. But basically, we need to do something about it, and pretty soon. We can't be ignoring it. So what does this mean for the media agency in 2020 and beyond? Well, everyone's talking about automation, right? And there's some pretty big predictions. So Deloitte are saying that 32% of UK roles could be taken over by robots, right? And Citibank are saying that 47% of US jobs could be automated. I don't know if we have any robots in the audience, do we? I can't see you if you're there. But what does this mean for our friendly media planners and buyers, and are we now going to have to replace them with robots? Well, to be honest, no. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But we've got to be realistic that a percentage of their roles should and absolutely could be automated, right? It's going to speed us up, it's going to make us more efficient, and it's going to cut down massively on human error. But you know what? All of this artificial intelligence has to be led by humans. So in Maxus, we talk about intelligence assisting. And you know, you've got to recognize that actually humans with skills in programmatic and in data and technology, all of that is going to be absolutely central to our success. But the brilliant thing about all of this change is that it brings us a massive opportunity. It brings us an opportunity to become absolutely brilliant and to train our people to become brilliant in the things that the computers can't do. So I want to talk about how you feed the imagination of an agency. So I'm going to take a little while to go through some of the ways in which we do this at Maxus. But firstly, let's look at our audience, so our people. I don't know about you, but I get a little bit bored with the whole Gen Y, Gen X, Gen Z, baby boomers. Probably because I'm jealous that I'm not at the kind of that end of the scale anymore. But I think it is really important to understand what the people that work for your business obviously are wanting these days. And we look at the Gen Y studies because, of course, especially in a media agency, everyone is like 27 years old, and that's just getting younger and younger. And that's great, because these people have some brilliant things that they want these days from an agency. But what I don't want us to forget are the people who are not 28, because there's still lots of them around. And actually, there's been studies that show that everybody's expectations of their workplace is changing. Everybody is expecting more, and everybody wants something a bit different to a few years ago. But let's look at some of the stats. So it's lovely to know that Generation Y have some values. We've always had values, I know, but I think these days, people's values, they're a bit more aware of them or something. And they come into their choice of company. So 76% of them want to work for a company that's got a conscience. And there's another stat as well, which is really quite interesting, that 68% of them would actually turn a job down with a company who had values that didn't chime with their own. So that's good. Good to have values. 86% of the super talent today want cultural experience as a part of their job. So if they apply to work in a global agency, they want to feel its globalness, right? They want the opportunities and they want the skills that that's going to bring and all the experiences. And 100% of them, this stat is by me, want to run before they can walk. And that is, really difficult to manage. The amount of conversations I have, probably about once a week, they go like this: "Hi, Bob, how are you doing?" He's like, "Can I have a promotion, please?" Like, okay, great. Remind me how long you've been at Maxus? 3 days. And, I am exaggerating a little bit, but we do have these people with fire in their hearts and passion and determination, and that is brilliant, and it needs to be harnessed in a really careful way. We have to understand how to manage them best to get that motivation and engagement. So how are we now going to engage all of our people whilst feeding the imagination of an agency? Well, at Maxus, we're doing this in 3 ways: through discovery, through creativity, and through heart. And I want to share them with you. So discovery, for us, is all about kind of pushing beyond your potential. It's about developing the person as a whole, the whole person, rather than just their skills. We believe that skills can be learned, but you can't develop somebody's spirit. They have spirit, so let's harness that. The way that we are living and breathing this at Maxus at the moment is through the Maxus Global Exchange. Now, I don't know if any of you ever went on a French exchange or something similar at school. I did. It was an absolute nightmare, and I wouldn't wish that on any child or adult. Well, the Maxus Global Exchange is nothing like that. It's different in that you go and visit another Maxus person, and then you host a different Maxus person. So the idea is that everybody gets to experience 2 cultures. We've got 76 people on this at the moment. It only started last April. And they're traveling to 45 different markets. And this is working really, really well, even though I say so myself. But it works for 3 main reasons. So firstly, the people on the exchange can't choose where they go. That's a no-no. It's got to be totally random. In order to expand imagination, you can't say to somebody, okay, where in the world have you always wanted to be? Let's just send you there. Also, everybody wants to go to Australia. Everybody. And there's only 2 places in each country. So that really, really helps to expand the imagination because they just end up going to random places, which is great. The second thing that really makes it work is that it's on an absolute budget. So there'd be no way that I could send 76 people on this every year if we were sending them on business class flights and 5-star accommodation. So they go and live and work with their host. And the benefit of that is that they then really immerse in their home culture. They get to meet their family, their friends, their dog, their cat, and they go to work with them at the same time. So it's a proper cultural immersion. And the third thing that really makes it work is that everybody's responsible for sharing their story with the rest of Maxus and beyond, so through blogging and through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So that it's kind of become a bit famous within Maxus, this Maxus Global Exchange. And it's certainly, absolutely feeding our people's imagination. But rather than me kind of banging on about it, I'd really like to just play you a very short clip of, of them telling you about their experience.
Originally, I was so nervous. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Everything was just part of the unknown. Now that I'm back, I couldn't imagine life without having that adventure and journey.
This trip is an amazing experience in my life. It helped me open my eyes, my mind, and my heart. I will never forget. We play together, we work together, and share a laughing together.
I've been with these guys for over a week now, and this has really started changing my perspective about the way we work and the way we look at our life.
Hey, let me also get in the frame. In case you are wondering, he is Patrick, my global exchange buddy from Maxus Warsaw.
I would really recommend this experience to anyone who wants to expand their mind and really explore their convictions.
I'll never forget the kind and generous people I'd met here.
It's been a life-changing experience, to say the least.
Looking forward to more days, experiencing the culture, understanding the work.
I'm able to see how Maxus Norway operates compared to Maxus Malaysia.
Work hard, play harder.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I just hope I'll be up to the task when my time as host comes.
It's 100% awesome.
You're gonna miss me everywhere. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone.
I love the way she's teaching Maxus Island how to play the cups. This is so cute. They stay for 2 weeks, but then they can travel. They take some holiday on top of that to have a bit of a holiday afterwards. The reason why it's 2 weeks and not kind of 3 months is so that we can offer that experience to more and more people. And this isn't meant to be, you know, the beginning of their new career in another country. This is about them, like, expanding their imagination, them realizing what it's like to work in another part of the world, what it's like to live in another part of the world. So 2 weeks means we can offer it to many, many people. This is Kenson. I don't know if you saw him just then on the film. I've really got to just quickly introduce you to him because he came from Maxus, Malaysia, to Norway. And he had a wonderful time staying with Mats and Natalie and some other of their wonderful people in the Maxus office. And he shared with me, actually, a few things that he absolutely loved about the team in Norway and how different they were to his team back home. He said that they were like a family. He said they had this really close-knit, kind of real, genuine friendships, which he wasn't used to at work. He also said that they had like this massive sense of responsibility and ownership which I thought was wonderful. And he also said that they had loads and loads of fun and a really great work-life balance. I'm going to move to Norway. Definitely. So the second way that we're increasing the imagination of our agency is through creativity itself. So this has been like rising up the agenda over the last few years, and within the last 6 months, we have rolled out a creative leadership program, and we've also appointed our very first global creative director, and she's a woman, which is unheard of in the UK. Yay! Go on, women. So we're very proud about that. But we're aware that, you know, bringing more creativity into what we do as a media agency, it has to kind of move beyond idea workshops. We have so many of those, and they're great, but there's a lot of them. And it has to go beyond like the office that we're in. You know, it's great to be in a really funky space, but creativity comes from more than that. Creativity comes from giving your people the space to explore, to experiment, and to make mistakes, quite frankly. So we're trying to do this at the moment through our Endeavour program. It's a Future Leaders program. So we've got like 45 people on this at the moment, and the way they applied is that they make a film of themselves, like day in the life of me. And they apply to be mentored by one of our kind of exec board level guys. And so there's, you know, a number of groups based around, like everybody connects across the world. They all come from different countries. And they decide on a project. And it can be anything, but it has to be a change leading project. And they work with their mentors on how to deliver this locally. So it's very challenging, and it pushes them way out of their comfort zone. But the brilliant thing about this is it's exactly what they want. They all want to bloody run before they can walk, and now we're chucking them in at the deep end. But it's great because it does help them to become more creative. We've got a few groups at the moment. One of them is actually working on creative leadership and how we bring this to life. Another one's like working on a new global programmatic tool. There's another group working on a whole new way to connect and communicate. I don't think they're coming up with a new language. That might be a bit too difficult, but I think it's like a platform thing. But anyway, giving them that stretch that they want and allowing them to make mistakes. Really good for deepening and stretching the imagination. The third way that we are, deepening or stretching our imagination is through heart. And heart is basically what's really important to us. We talk about the heart of Maxus, and we talk about our values. And one of those values is all about diversity. And it has to be, quite frankly, because we want to work in a really interesting workplace. So the more people with different life experiences, different backgrounds, different points of view, the better. And our clients expect from us deeper, broader points of view that only really a very diverse workforce can offer. So it's important to us on many, many levels. The thing is, you may have noticed, the media agency isn't the most diverse industry in the world. And we're not going to crack this overnight. But we have decided and committed to taking it one step at a time. And we're starting with gender equality. We've got an amazing leader. Her name is Lindsay Patterson. She's our global CEO. And she's the only female global CEO in the whole of the media industry. And she's on a mission, and we're right behind her to get better balance within this industry. Our holding company, WPP, last year at Cannes, they committed to working with the UN on one of their sustainability goals, all about gender equality. It's called Planet 50/50 by 2030. And some of the stats, right, that the UN talk about, I mean, I find them actually quite exciting. Like this thing about having more women as peace negotiators. So at the moment, they've proven that when women are involved in peace negotiations, they're 35% more likely to be successful. Yet we only have 9% of female negotiators. You know, things like that. It's a massive opportunity. Can you imagine the impact this could have on our world? So we're really proud to be working with the UN, but we're also really aware that we've got to kind of get our own company, our own business in order first. At Maxus, the stats aren't too terrible, but they aren't great. So we're kind of 50-50 workforce, male and female. And then when you look at senior level roles, so I'm talking about like client service directors, heads of department, we've got a really good number of women in those roles. There's about 40% of them are women. But it's when you look at the people who are leading our company, when you look at the people on the boards, that's when the numbers kind of just drop off, and we've got 27% of those roles held by women. But we know, and we're becoming even more aware, that as well as the ethical issue to address here, there's a really good business reason to crack this. Companies that have got a better balance of male and female energy on their leadership boards drive up to 53% more profit. So with all this in mind, last year we launched Walk the Talk. We got together 220 of our female senior leaders from all around the world, and we held 3 events in London, in New York, and in Thailand. Before we did that, what we wanted to do was to find out from these women why they aren't going for the most senior roles. Because firstly, you can't kind of presume that every woman wants to be the next global CEO. They don't. But we wanted to know what the barriers were that exist for them moving into those roles. So we asked them to share their stories with us. And my goodness, it was like opening the floodgates. It really was interesting to hear all of their experiences coming in. And they told us, like, their stories kind of came into 2 themes. So they told us about the external barriers that hold them back from those top roles, and they are like out-of-date policies, procedures, lack of maternity, paternity, no flexible working in a lot of places. But more often, they told us about the internal barriers that they face as senior female women in this industry. And that was around like lack of confidence, self-limiting beliefs, cultural conditioning in many parts of the world. And they were things that we actually can do something about. And that's what Walk the Talk was all about. We held these, it was like a 2-day retreat in all of these different places. And it was a chance for the woman to just take check, really, of her whole life. It wasn't a leadership training program. We absolutely didn't want that. It was a time for a woman to look at her whole life and go really deep. Now, the results that we've seen since have been really quite heartening. Firstly, the 220 women were so energized by their own experience, they took many of the coaching techniques that they learned back to their people in their offices. So now 900 people have experienced Walk the Talk. Some of them are women, some of them are men. Within 8 months, 30 of our women, our senior women, were promoted, me included, which is rather nice. And we had this amazing thing where, you know what, some of those women, it was like, okay, natural progression, time for them to move up. But lots of them were going, do you know what? On Walk the Talk, I decided my bold move was going to be this. And I'm going to create my new role. This is what the new global creative director did, actually. It didn't even exist before. And she went, right, that's what we need in this company. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how I'm going to manage it around my 2 kids. You know, it's really, really amazing how the impact has been hitting us ever since. The other thing that we're really happy about is that WPP have now taken on Walk the Talk. So 170 of the companies within that group are now going to benefit from it. And if any of you, by the way, would like to know more about Walk the Talk, I am more than willing to share it with you. You can have it. We can literally just give it to you as a program. We've got everything you'd need. So just let me know. because I think that it should take over the world. So there we go. So just to recap then, so do we think that robots are going to take over the media agency? Well, no, but they are absolutely invited in to do some of the, the legwork, some of the stuff that could really speed us up and make us more efficient. And let's not forget the opportunity that automation is going to bring us. It's going to mean that we get a chance to develop the thing that the computers can't do. We can become more imaginative. And at Maxus, we're doing that through discovery, so stretching people beyond their potential, letting them develop as people rather than just their skills. We're doing this through creativity, so giving the freedom to explore and to make mistakes, and through heart. And that's through creating diversity and a culture that has opportunity for everyone. So thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
All right, Rudi, that was fantastic. Who wouldn't want to work at Maxus? It's fantastic. So I want to ask you, though, so the global exchanges that you do, clearly everybody you film seem to be enjoying it. One can imagine they get a lot out of it. In your position, you must have to justify it, though, to your board and leaders. And I guess what are the metrics that it's succeeding, other than that you have happy, satisfied individuals who take part in it?
Well, I mean, we get them to obviously do like a survey and ask them how their time was. But really, you see, I get asked this question quite a lot, because what people are expecting is that we say, oh yes, and since we launched the Maxus Global Exchange, nobody's ever left Maxus again. And it just doesn't work like that, because people don't want to be in jobs for much longer than kind of 2 or 3 years these days. It's just, that is the way that it works. They want to have a wonderful experience at an agency, and then they might move on. And if they do you know what? We don't mind, because many of them are coming back a few years later to us anyway. And they actually go out into the world then as spokespeople to say what a brilliant time they've had at Maxus. But yes, we do need to also show that this is having a really good effect on, our people and why, as a business, we should keep investing in this. And I think that comes through the engagement figures. They've risen again this year. So we're really, really pleased about that. But mainly, I think it's the real-time stories and feedback that we see across every social channel telling us, internally within Maxus and externally, what a great time they're having and how they value the experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's not tied to any new ideas that bring in revenue or something like that. It's really...
No. This is all about... It's about broadening their imagination. It's about taking them out of their normal day-to-day. It's about giving them a development opportunity that's about the whole of them, rather than just their skills that they're using every day.
Yeah, great. All right, and I want to talk about walk the talk and the sort of gender issue. So I interviewed Martin Sorrell at one point. We were talking about gender, and and his line was, he acknowledged that there are few women at the top in his industry. We were talking specifically about their few female CEOs, sort of generally, and his line was, there will be more female CEOs when there are more female CEOs. And what he meant by that is so that there are people at the top that we can model behavior after, who will create these sort of levels, kind of support networks down below. I'd love to hear more about how you're trying to layer the mentoring part of it. I mean, women are sometimes criticized. I remember Sheryl Sandberg went into this in her book, as not supporting other women. I don't know if that's fair or not, but some of the data seem to suggest that. So I'd love to talk to you, how are you layering the kind of mentoring, reinforcing up and down?
It's a really good question. So I think for us with Walk the Talk, one of the main goals for us was that we were going to help this level of role model become bigger and better role models. Because you're exactly right what you said, or what Martin said, is that we need to have more women living and breathing those roles, showing that it's capable to have a family and be that senior, for example, in order for others to look at it and think, that's a really good idea, I want to do that as well. So Walk the Talk was very much about that. But what we absolutely aren't doing is bringing in quotas. We're not saying, for example, by next year, we need this percentage of women at the top. Because I don't know one woman that wants to be promoted just because she's a woman. It's just, who wants that? But what we are doing at the moment is a global project which is all about succession planning. And I'm working with every single CEO on this, our regional CEOs, and then the ones that report into them. And the idea is that we have a succession plan, and one of those women, for each of the senior roles, has to be a woman. So you have 3 people in line, one of them has to be a woman. And if they're not ready to move into that role within a year, we need to know how that CEO is going to develop them into that role. So it's a longer game. You can't just go, hey, let's just change the way that things have been for years and years overnight. It's a longer game. It's going to take development. It's going to take a lot of focus to really start to drive change in this area.
And all of it is psychological and social. I think Lean In also talked about how, classic sort of male-female divide where, let's say there's a job and applicants must meet, 5 criteria in order to apply for the job. And, men typically, if they meet 1 or 2, they're like, I can do this. Women, even if they meet all 5, have this sort of imposter syndrome. I can't possibly be qualified. I can't do this.
That came up all the time on Walk the Talk. That was one of the things. It's so strange. I mean, I don't like completely generalizing, but there is definitely a trend that women need to be over-prepared before they feel ready to go for the role, whereas most men tend to just go, right, 3 boxes ticked, I'm going for it. Yeah. So we need to be a bit more like that. Yeah. Come on, girls.
Yeah, really. Okay, well, that's fantastic. Great talk, great discussion.
It's lovely to talk to you. Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Okay, thanks.